What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Jeff Goldblum film, Independence Day: Resurgence. Independence Day: Resurgence is the sequel to the 1996 action film Independence Day. The general story of this film is the aliens come back and they want to destroy the Earth. And that's the story of this movie, and then everyone else is there to try and stop it. Now, they did not get Will Smith to return, however, Roland Emmerich is back to direct. We get Jeff Goldblum back, we get Bill Pullman back, we get a decent amount of the original cast back in this film, and the story sort of feels generic, but just like the first, I think that this movie fulfills its task of being a very fun summer blockbuster. Now, to start off with, the first Independence Day was released when I was a kid, and I remember watching it as a child, and the part where the alien throws the dude against the window, and Bill Pullman's like, "What do you expect from us?" and the alien's like, "Die." This part scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, but now that I've grown up, I've rewatched the film, and I enjoy the first Independence Day. I think it's a very fun, alien, just destruction of the world movie. And it's not a great film, it's just really fun. It's cheesy and it's corny, and it doesn't necessarily meet the criteria to be something amazing, but it's a very fun film, and that's what I wanted out of the second Independence Day. We've waited 20 years for this film, and I was hoping that we would at least get something fun that you could sit there and eat popcorn in a movie theater and enjoy. Now, this movie takes place just as chronologically in real life, 20 years into the future. The Earth has not had any armed conflict, everyone has came together, and everybody's friends, and they have used the alien technology from the Battle of 1996 to improve their technology. So now space travel is something that's much easier. They can travel around the world easier. They have like hover flight type technology so they can actually combat aliens, because they always thought that maybe they would return. This movie did what I wanted it to do. It was a very fun film. It has funny lines, some characters have quite a few good one-liners, and I think that as a whole, it's a fun summer movie. Some of the special effects are good, some of the special effects are not so good, some of the new cast members are good, some of the new cast members are not so good. This movie is definitely a mixed bag of things that worked and things that didn't work. However, the one thing I will say is I didn't feel like this movie relied very heavily on nostalgia, which I think is definitely a pro of this film, because if you make a sequel to a movie that came out 20 years ago, you can bet your ass that most people would write that script trying their best to make sure everyone remembers how much they liked the first one, so that way it would maybe leave an imprint that this one was as good as the first one. I didn't feel like this did that. It did bring back the old cast, but that's because the old cast is still very important members of this new world 20 years later. They weren't brought back sort of just on the fact that they were like in the first film. I did feel like a couple characters were that way, but I felt like most of the main cast of this film needed to be in the film. Now, just like the first one, this movie is full of cliche and cheesy lines, but they didn't really bother me that much, although I did notice them a lot more this time around. I also felt like there was a side storyline happening with Jeff Goldblum's dad in this like car full of children that was totally unnecessary. It could have been completely cut from the movie. I didn't think it was necessary. It didn't really add any laughs, and I don't think it really added anything special to the movie at all. Now, I think most of the fight sequences in the new Independence Day were actually pretty fun. I think that the CGI is an issue at times in this film. I felt that some of the sequences were very big and required a lot of CGI, and in those scenes, sometimes the CGI didn't quite live up to that, but in other sequences, I thought it was pretty good. But I think the main issue I had with this is back in '96, when they made the first Independence Day, they used a decent amount of practical effects and like practical items. So the aliens at times in the movie were practical. The ships would be CGI, but then we were on the ground, they had real prosthetics made to look like the aliens. And in this film, they didn't do that, and I didn't really enjoy that aspect, because I felt like if you could do it in '96, you probably have an even bigger budget now. Why can't you afford to make practical effects aliens for when they're on the ground? I thought that Roland Emmerich, returning as director, did a pretty good job. I think that he envisioned a very large-scale movie, and because of the large scale of this film, the beginning takes a little while to get started, and at times it feels like there are too many characters being put into this movie, like Jeff Goldblum's father, who it seems like was basically brought back just because the actor could do it. And I felt that because of that, it suffered on that end. However, I think in terms of the new cast that they brought in, they obviously have the new actor Jesse Usher playing Will Smith's son in the film, because Will Smith, they couldn't get him to do this one, and he is not good. He is very bland and wooden throughout this whole film. He brings zero, like, energy to this movie at all. He's not very funny, he's never emotional, and I think as a whole, he just was not good for this role. I personally actually enjoyed Liam Hemsworth in this movie. I mean, I don't think he lived up to, you know, a Will Smith or something like that, but I thought he was pretty funny and an enjoyable character to watch on the screen. I don't think Liam Hemsworth has proven himself to be anything more on screen than Liam Hemsworth, but in this movie, I felt like that worked. I felt like him just playing Liam Hemsworth was good enough for this role, and he had some funny moments, and I enjoyed him. But just as everyone could guess, the best part about this entire film is Jeff Goldblum. The man's a genius. He is insanely talented. He's a great actor, and he really holds this whole movie together. If he wasn't brought back for this movie would have fallen apart. And I think that really he is great. He has proven through the years since the first Independence Day, he can do dramatic films. He's very funny, and in this movie he's also very funny. And I think that Jeff Goldblum is the main thing that these Independence Day movies need. If they ever want to make a third, which at the end of this movie they really bring up the point that they could make a third one very blatantly, they have to keep Jeff Goldblum, otherwise that movie will be not worth watching at all. And even though, like I said earlier, I didn't feel like they relied on nostalgia, I did feel like there were a few sequences in this movie where they were trying to bring back that same energy the first film had. They tried to almost recreate some scenes that were straight out of the first movie, but instead of obviously having the original characters there, they inserted the new characters. And at times, it didn't feel that bad. At times, I was like, okay, this is alright. Even though this is very similar to the first, I'm still okay with it. And there were other times where I was like, that is blatantly not even like attempting to try to be something else other than just the scene from the first film. And it felt very just dumb. It didn't feel necessary at all to me. I'm gonna give Independence Day Resurgence a B-. I don't think that Independence Day Resurgence is as much fun or as much of a great summer movie blockbuster as the first one. However, I think if you enjoyed the first Independence Day, if you enjoy big movies full of special effects and explosions, go check this movie out. You'll have a good time. It's not some amazing action film that'll go down in history, but it is a good time in the movie theater in summer. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Independence Day Resurgence, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.